I think there's certain regions that are
Mhm.
definitely more prevalent that
Mhm.
just that you can trace it back to just I mean the whole town being part of the
Right.
celebration. Definitely it's throughout Mexico.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one person that can't relate to this, and it's beautiful that this is now expanding to
Yeah.
other cultures. And if you really look at it, every culture has some sort of um tradition of its own, not like Mexico,
Mhm.
but to where they honor their dead,
Especially, I've been seeing like in Europe too.
Mhm.
You
I
know,
had
it's
seen that.
it's it's
Mhm.
definitely expanding. It's not just in Mexico, but
Is it like recently expanding, or is it just being more like pushed into mainstream? Like
Yeah.
everybody is now like knowledgeable of
Yes.
of the culture.
So yeah, it feels like the last couple of years it's been
Yeah.
more of a mainstream.
Hmm.
But
I
I
wonder
think
why.
I think a lot of it has to do with the internet.
True.
You see
Right.
things like I would type, for example, my name, Belleza Tarasca.
Mhm.
I typed that we're from Michoacan, so a lot of the narrative of Tarasco, it's very in a male form. There really isn't like any female form of it. So you rarely hear Tarasca. It's always Tarasco. So I would go on the
And what is
internet.
Tarasco?
So Tarasco, in Michoacan, where we're from, the indigenous people are the Purépechas. The Purépecha people were actually one of the few um, indigenous that were not conquered by the Aztecs. So they were strong enough to basically withhold. The Aztecs wanted this land, this region, because it's very rich
very
in
rich.
minerals like copper, silver, gold. So they were unable to defeat them. So a lot of the people say, the word Tarasco itself is wrong because it comes from the Europeans. It came from not being able to be conquered by the Europeans or by the Aztecs. So it is believed that the Europeans gave this name to the Purepecha people, but kind of like in an insult, saying, "Oh, you monsters." But at the same time, it was
Mm,
like, "You monsters because we can't defeat you."
right.
So it was like an insult, but almost with a little bit of respect, or like, well, we can't defeat you, so whatever. you know?
That's awesome.
Um, Particularly my name comes from I was raised in the city of Morelia, which is the capital of Michoacan. And in the middle of the city, there's this beautiful fountain that it is three indigenous women holding a platter of fruit, fish, and it represents like abundance for the land, for the people, and it's called Las Tarascas. So I that was the first time I heard the word Tarasco in a female form.
Mm.
And when I started doing this, I really wanted to represent like where I'm from, Morelia. And I just when I lived there, it's funny because the female the statues, they're bare breasted. So when I was little, I went to school nearby, and you drive by there and it's like, oh, don't look at the boobies, like it was kind of like a beautiful thing, but don't look at it because there's boobies.
Right.
And just it kept on coming to mind, all these connections that I was having. My grandmother passed away about 20 years ago. And when I met my husband and we started talking about, yep, that's the fountain right there. And it's beautiful.
Oh, that's
So it's like in the middle
beautiful.
of like the main
Oh, wow.
avenue. And so
What are they
traffic,
holding up?
the
is that?
platter it's like a platter, and it has fruit.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's
ofrenda?
it's covered in bronze, I believe. Because the original colors were just, being eaten up by just the environment, the sun, everything was being worn off. So they just covered them in bronze, sorry. So yeah, it has fruit, it has fish. There's a nearby lake in Pátzcuaro where it's known for fishing. So it just pretty much is like an offering for abundance for the land, for the people.
That is magnificent.
So a lot of like the memories that I had, there's other festivals, like there's a festival del Torito where they create like a little bull and they dance it, and it became like every neighborhood of Morelia, they're known for something. So this neighborhood makes bread, this one makes shoes, this one makes, everybody had their own thing. And their torito is like, it's like creating a piñata, but you could put on this piñata and dance it.
Whoa,
So
really?
yeah,
That's
like it's
cool.
so if you look it up, like Torito,
Uh-huh.
Morelia, and then Festival del Torito. They get very creative. It's evolved now. So now you have like things like Pokemon on them. But before they really
gosh.
represented like a torito, and you could tell it was the neighborhood of like people that made bread and people that made piñatas and people that made like, so everybody was like their pride of who they were as a neighborhood. And they all go down the main avenue till they get to the main plaza. And then they basically dance it off to see who the champion was going to be for the year.
Whoa.
Oh,
So as you
that's
can
Is
tell,
that it
there's a
right there?
lot of, yeah, that's it right
Yeah.
there.
Oh man.
So they get super creative and all these little things. Like I would tell him because he's from a very small town, so they don't really have like a lot of these little
So
traditions.
Michoacan is the state. So it's a state
Yes.
in Mexico.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And then Morelia, it's its capital.
Is the capital.
So
of
he's from
Michoacan.
Michoacan, but he's from another extreme,
Okay.
from a very small town. So a lot of these things were like unknown to him.
Yeah, my parents are from La Magdalena, Michoacan, and my grandpa from one side he was from La Esperanza, so, and that's on the opposite side of Michoacan.